Good afternoon, folks. We're going to be starting in just a couple minutes. While we're waiting, please enjoy our temporary resident having some lunch. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to be starting in just a minute. I'm going to try to get a little closer without making our friend nervous. Give it just another minute to allow some more folks to join us. Hope everyone is doing well on this rainy day, or if it's not rainy near you, hope you're enjoying your day. Welcome everybody to another edition of Lunchtime Live. My name is Leah. I am the curator here at the museum, and I am bringing you another special edition. This afternoon, we're going to be talking a little bit about our temporary resident, this Beaver, who I'm going to flip around again, who is temporarily calling the Wild Center home. This little one was found injured in the town of Tupper Lake a couple weeks ago, and we got a call from the local authorities, so we went down and assessed the situation, and what we found is this little one was very emaciated. Hi Mom, my mom's watching. So emaciated meaning very, very skinny, and also it had some pretty serious wounds. Looks to us like somebody tried to make a meal out of him. He's got some wounds on his backside and some puncture wounds up by his shoulder. So we brought him back here to the Wild Center. We had some veterinarians take a look at him. We treated his wounds, and he was on antibiotics. And now we're just trying to get him to gain some weight, which thankfully he's really into eating. So he has been doing really well. After the first week we had him, he gained over 15 pounds. So he went from 22 pounds to 30 something, and he's still thin, believe it or not. So still has some weight to gain, but is eating really well. Once he gains some more weight and those wounds heal up a little more, we will be releasing him back to the wild. Now I want to tell you a little bit about us and wildlife rehab, because this is a question we get all the time. We don't really do wildlife rehab here at the museum. We want to. We'd love to help all of the injured, orphaned, sick animals, but unfortunately we're a little constrained here. There are about 300 animal ambassadors that call the Wild Center home full-time. There are 4 of us staff who take care of all of those animals. So we're pretty busy just making sure all of those animals are happy and healthy, and when we get an animal like this, they need specialized care, and sometimes there's not enough of us to go around. And also, we're pretty limited on space. So for the most part, we don't take in a lot of wildlife rehab cases. We do make some, judgment calls. Last summer, if you followed along with us, we had 2 orphan river otter pups who we raised and released back to the wild. And in that case, we were one of the few folks in the area that sort of had the special knowledge to take care of river otters, because we have 5 of our own that call the Wild Center home. We also have pools for them to swim in, and same thing with this beaver here. There wasn't anybody locally who was able to take this one on, so for the moment we're doing treatment. So I just wanted to tell you all that. A lot of times people will call us and ask for help, and normally what we do is we try to hook them up with other local wildlife rehabilitators in their area, wherever they may be. There's a wonderful network here in the North Country called North Country Wild Care. If you ever have an injured or sick or orphaned animal you can give them a call. If you just Google them, they have a website and a hotline, and they will link you up with a wildlife rehabilitator who can help. And if you don't know much about wildlife rehab, let me tell you a little bit about that. In the state of New York, you can become a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. What you have to do is take a test. They give it, I think, twice a year and pass it. And then you have to have some facilities where you can house the animals. And you have to have a little bit of knowledge, baseline knowledge, to be able to take care of them. So rehabilitators are really the folks that are experts in knowing exactly what an animal needs. A lot of people want to help animals, and that is awesome. You just need to make sure that you're feeding them the right thing, that you're housing them in an appropriate space, because animals can get sick and injured and stressed very easily. So that's a little bit about that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments. And I'm gonna flip this back around so you can watch the beaver, who I think is much cuter than me today. So let's get down here a little close. Let's talk about beavers a little bit. So beavers are North America's largest rodent. A lot of people don't realize that they're rodents. So they're related to mice and squirrels. They have really long front teeth that constantly grow, and that helps them to be able to eat what they eat, which is plants. They're eating a lot of tree material. They will eat some of the bark, but a lot of times what they're eating is the soft underlayer, the cambium layer right underneath the bark, which is, I think, what he's going after right now. They'll also eat aquatic plants, roots, shoots, things like that. And as we all know, beavers are famous for making dams. They need about 2 to 3 feet of water to really survive well. And if they're in an area where the water is not that deep, that's one reason why they might build a dam. They might dam the water source so they can have a little bit more water. They also, if the water is really fast moving, they might dam it and flood an area. And beaver habitat is some of the most biologically productive habitat for wildlife. It creates space for all kinds of aquatic insects and all the animals that might feed on those. A lot of ducks depend on beaver habitat. Now, certainly we don't like beaver building dams right in the middle of our yard or in our roads, and they flood that stuff, but they actually do provide a really great service in nature. So if you're ever in an area where there is a beaver dam, I encourage you to stop and just watch. Chances are you're going to see a lot of different wildlife using that area. Again, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm trying to keep an eye on them while we're checking out our little friend. So this is a fully wild beaver. We don't really know why he was injured, and I'm saying we're making an educated guess, basically based on the color and smell of his urine. Believe it or not, male beavers are their urine smells stronger and it's darker, but we're just kind of guessing. You can't really tell easily by looking. So this one came to us very skinny and wounded. His wounds have healed pretty well, are still in the process of healing, but are healing pretty well. And he's putting on a lot of weight, so we think, another maybe 2 weeks and we'll be able to release him back to the wild, which would be great. Beavers are social animals. When you see a lodge, there's usually an adult pair, and they might have some of their young from previous litters. They'll stay with their parents for 2 to 3 years and then move on their own. So they are fairly social, which is adorable. If you've never seen a baby beaver, oh my gosh, Google some pictures. They are the cutest. And fun fact, beavers have scent glands in their rumps that produce a pretty smelly substance. A lot of people find that smell actually pleasing. Some of my coworkers have said that this is the best our hospital has ever smelled. It's almost a sweet kind of vanilla smell, and that gland that gland substance is used in a lot of perfumes, lotions, perfumes. It's used as a base. And some of you might know that beaver are also trapped for their fur. They have incredibly thick, soft, waterproof fur. So that fur is often prized for a lot of stuff, clothing, items, and things like that. And yes, there is still legal trapping season on beaver in New York State. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. I could probably just sit here and watch this little one eat all day. I'm trying not to get too close because I don't want to scare him, but I'll lean in a little closer. It's so cute watching him eat. I don't know if you can hear his little chewing noises. I love those little chewing noises. So cute. We'll just enjoy this moment. For those of you just joining us, we're just talking about beavers today, and this little one who is here temporarily, recovering from some injuries and from being really skinny. And we hope to release him soon. Sarah says you're surprised they're soft. You always thought their fur looks kind of coarse. Yeah, it does look coarse. I agree with you, even right now as I'm sitting here close, but it's fairly soft. I spent quite a bit of time helping pick ticks off of this little one when we first got him in, all around his injury sites. Unfortunately, the ticks were able to get down to the skin, so I spent a lot of time touching his fur in the beginning. We think that we got all of the ticks off at this point, but there were a lot of them. It was pretty gross. Jane wants to know if he has a name. You know, we've just jokingly been calling him Justin Beaver. Get it? Beaver. It's just kind of a joke. So. Trying to get in there so you can see. So we have been trying to feed this little one, you know, whatever it seems like he'd be interested in eating. They eat a lot of deciduous trees, so we've been cutting down birch and beech, and we had raspberry branches for a while. Tim, you're wondering how old he might be. We don't know the answer to that. We kind of think that he might be a young one. We are theorizing he was so skinny that we think he was skinny before he got injured. Like maybe he left his parents and wasn't doing so well on his own, and then something tried to attack him. So we're kind of guessing maybe 2 to 3 years old, but it's really hard to tell. They live about 10 to 12 years in the wild, and in captivity they can sometimes live up to 20 years. I just looked that up, which is kind of amazing and surprising. So yeah, they live about 10 to 12 years in the wild, maybe 20 years in captivity, when we will be releasing this little one, hopefully soon. So you can go out there and live a productive life. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I just think these guys are some of the cutest animals. And they generally, if you see them in the wild, they tend to be pretty nonchalant in my experience. They will slap their tail as a warning on the water if they feel nervous around you, and sometimes that's all you'll get. You'll just hear that loud slap and you just know there's a beaver nearby, and then you don't see them. But in my experience, they're, you know, they kind of just do their own thing. They're not necessarily super afraid. They will build two kinds of lodges depending on what the habitat is like. Sometimes they'll build a bank lodge, which is, you know, a hole in the side of a bank. If the water level is pretty stable, they'll go right into a bank, and they'll use sticks and twigs there too. They'll also build those, you know, what we traditionally think of as a lodge, those big lodges in the water. Again, if the water level is fairly stable, they'll do it in the water. Let's see, Sandy wants to know, since he was not able to care for himself previously, what are the chances he will do better when released? Let me see if I can see your whole comment. Sandy, we're making a guess at what may have happened to him previously. We don't exactly know. What we do know is, you know, he didn't lose that weight overnight, so we think that he was probably thin and a little slow before whatever tried to make a meal out of him did. And we don't know the reason for that. So we may run some blood work before we release him just to make sure that there isn't some kind of underlying infection. But that's, you know, sometimes in the wild, in nature, that's just what happens. The young leave their parents in whatever species, and not all of them survive. If he got pushed to a place of habitat that wasn't the best and he just wasn't able to find enough food, that could be what happened to him. We don't really know. What we do know is that we're gonna find a place to release him that has really great habitat, that has all the food that he needs, that has good water, and we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that he has the best chance of surviving as possible. Will you try to release it where there are other beavers present? Eileen wants to know. We're not sure about that. We need to do a little research. We do have beaver, you know, all around the Wild Center. Our property goes right down to the Racket River. There's an active lodge down there. I have a feeling that adult beavers will defend their lodges. So we need to do a little more research on what's the best place to release. So we're still in the process of that. And like I said, I think we have probably 2 more weeks before, you know, his wounds are healed up enough and he's put on enough weight that we feel comfortable with it. So we're gonna check in with other rehabilitators that have a lot of experience releasing beavers and ask what their opinions are. If we are right and he was a young one that left his parents, what he would be doing now is finding his own home and, you know, getting ready to find his own mate. So that would be a normal thing, and if that's the case, we'll try to find a spot that, like I said, is good habitat and probably there aren't any other beavers at yet, which thankfully the Adirondack Park is 6 million acres and there are so many water bodies and it's just such great habitat here. I feel pretty confident we will be able to find a nice place for him. So that's kind of our story this afternoon. I'm just sitting here inside of one of the pens we have him in. This is our hospital space at the Wild Center. If we have an animal that's new, they come in here until we make sure that they're super healthy. It's also the space if any of our animals get sick, come in here, and then the few times we do rehab, they'll come in this space too. So he has this space, he has a big pool right next to us, and then a den beyond that. So he's got quite a bit of space, more than what you see right here. Thanks everybody for watching this afternoon. We're so happy to have you join us. We're going to continue bringing you content every single day, so check our website, check our Facebook, check our Instagram, check it all. We're providing content at all different levels. Thanks, Sarah. We think we're pretty lucky that we get to hang out with him. You know, I always feel pretty lucky that I get to be near these animals. It's a pretty special experience. So thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.